Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Friends with Cars F1 Talk.
F1 talk?
Hey.
This is our first venture into reviewing the Formula One race that just happened today.
And you know what? It's going to be a good review because I got a lot of opinions. Got a lot of shit to say.
So, for those of you, this is your first time around. We all enjoy Formula One, and we've been watching the races for a couple of years now.
2017.
2017.
Oh, how's it been that long
It's
already?
been since 2017.
Yikes.
It's been that long.
I'm getting old.
So, now that we're watching the races and we have a podcast, we figure why not just incorporate the two? And while we have an F1 season, we'll just talk about F1.
Yeah. And it gives us an opportunity to drink in the morning.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Mimosas or
Cheers.
just straight out
Or just straight
champagne.
champagne.
Always
Cheers.
good. Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers. I think the biggest thing for the first lap was the fact that Gasly got into that incident in turn one, coming out of turn one, going to turn two, and he got a 5-second grid penalty. Or sorry, a 5-second penalty for
The
it.
F1, what are they called? The FIA trash. The FIA is trash.
Yeah, I think I'll have to agree with you. I think that 5-second penalty shouldn't have been there. He literally did get sandwiched between the two.
Right.
Yeah.
No matter which way he would have gone, he would have got that 5-second penalty because he would have hit the other car. Who was that was Sergio Perez, right, on the opposite side.
Between Perez and Fernando.
Right. So he would have hit Perez 5-second penalty. He hit Fernando 5-second penalty. I mean, really, where was he supposed to go?
Well, the only other option is to slow down and let him go by, which, I mean, what driver's going to do that? And
Right.
second of all, you're already in the turn. Everybody's already slowing down.
But I don't think he could see Alonso because Alonso was a little bit behind
No,
him,
Alonso
right?
came out on the outside, and it
Uh-huh.
was Perez on the inside, and I think he didn't really notice that Fernando was on the outside.
He's probably paying more attention to Perez. I mean,
And I don't think he turned his wheel at any point. I think it's just he was just taking the racing line. And
Yeah.
it was just, I think it was a racing incident. There shouldn't have been a penalty for that.
I agree.
Well, also, it was raining. Track's wet, track's greasy. It's difficult to control the car. I'm going to use the Lando Norris incident where he tried to pit when he was on slicks at the last race, and he crossed the line going to the pits and they came back in. I think the FIA was very lenient. They actually just gave him a reprimand, right?
Right.
Yeah. But if it was Hamilton, he would have got like a 10-second penalty because, I mean, fuck him, right?
Well,
Well,
you mean Sir Lewis Hamilton.
You're right. My fault. No, but also, isn't it more Alonso's fault for going in on the outside? He didn't have the driving line. Shouldn't Alonso have gotten the 5-second penalty?
I don't think anybody should have gotten a penalty.
Right.
Yeah, I
But I
agree.
mean, if you're looking at it from a perspective, he didn't have the racing line. He should have backed out, not Gasly.
yeah.
He should have backed up, but I think his penalty was already being spun out. So that was his mistake, and he was out. I think if he would have turned into Gasly and then Gasly, because of them, spins
Got it.
out, then I think Alonso would have gotten a penalty. But
Right.
I just think that's why it was a racing incident. There shouldn't have been a penalty.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I already have a job, but if the FIA has openings, I think that I would be great.
You could totally be not biased, even though you just said.
Right. Right.
So lap 21, either lap 21 or 22, you had brought up a good point. It was when the McLaren engineer went on the radio to ask Lando about his tires and what he felt. And you brought up a good question. You made a comparison to Lewis Hamilton. So I'm gonna bring that to you.
Well, yeah, I just think it's interesting that his is it his race engineer that come over that. So I think it's interesting that they ask him how he's feeling. Now, granted, obviously he's on the track and he's the one actually racing, but you know, you hear like Lewis's race engineer or like Sebastian's race engineer, and they just pretty much say like, okay, it's time to box. It's time to box. So, like, you need to come in. Whereas like Lando, they're like, hey, how's it going? How's it going out there? Like that didn't work for him last week, and so I don't think that that's something that like something that they should continue to do.
You brought up a point.
Yeah, I think, and I think because Lando is a newer driver, he doesn't send as much feedback to the pit as Lewis does. And I think I mentioned during the race, Lewis is very vocal.
Yeah.
I mean, he's telling you the whole time, what are you guys doing? This tires are going bald. And of course, half the time I think he's sandbagging because he says,
Right.
I have no front tires. And then he gets the fastest lap and he passes everybody. So I think he sends a lot of feedback. I think, like Vettel, I think drivers send feedback. You even heard Valtteri saying, you know, rain on 8, rain on turn 16. I mean, he was kind of calling it out. I don't think Lando communicates as much, so they have to kind of get that information out of him.
Right.
And then asking him, hey, you know, how do you think the tires are doing? I mean, he probably just want to get that feedback from him.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. I think seeing last week's incident where or 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
where he made a mistake, stayed out, made a decision to stay out, and the team followed his decision, which to me was shocking.
Right.
The minute Lewis pitted, they should have pitted him right after because he would have been ahead. But yeah, I see the point. It's like, why are you asking your driver, especially the one that's already made a mistake and he's kind of
Right.
not
Yeah.
experienced?
Right. Which,
What he
and
should
he's
do.
a great driver. Like, don't get me wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
He's really great, but I just don't know. Again, like you said, he is a younger driver, so you kind of look to your team to make the decisions for you. And like your headspace is so stressed being an F1 driver. I don't think asking more questions of the driver is necessarily beneficial.
Yeah, but taking that risk, bringing up last race during qualifying, they gave him the option and the option as far as the tire choice. They took the risk. They went with the slicks during qualifying, and it got him pole. So I think the fact that he got pole with that decision, making that decision, I think they're allowing him to make more decisions and give him that flexibility. It just didn't work this time.
Well, but so Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion, like he makes this his decision against the team. They don't give him the option to make the decisions. He just does what he wants.
Yeah,
You
but
know
he's
what
a
I mean?
rock star.
I get it, but you get what I'm saying? Like, it's the difference. Like, if Lando thinks that they're wrong, he always has that option to say, like, no. But I think the team should be the one making the
Wait,
decisions.
is this the way this is going to go? Every time we say something about Lewis Hamilton, you have to throw in his 7-time world champion?
Well,
Is
he
this like the
is.
Yankees
Is that the
27 championships?
27 World Series.
I'm just saying, there might be a reason why Lando spins out when he's winning the race, and Hamilton's won 7 world championships.
So would you like McLaren to just give Lando the direction rather than ask him the questions?
Yeah, I think that would be better. Not necessarily because Lando's not competent. I think better in the sense that, like, less to focus on. And you have all the data sitting on the pit wall. I think that should be the decision maker, the data.
So Lando just needs to be better at providing
Input.
input.
Yeah, I think that
And
would
maybe
be
we
better.
don't hear a lot more from the other team radios,
Uh-huh.
but it does seem like pretty much every team makes a decision for the driver.
Right.
In McLaren, the reason I guess we're talking about it because it seems like McLaren's been asking the driver.
Mhm.
I don't hear them asking Ricardo
Right.
the same kind of questions. I mean, I
Right.
think today they did ask him, what do you think? Can we get more speed out of the tires
If we change them.
if we change them? And he said, I think we would.
Mhm.
Obviously not right off the bat, but obviously he did manage to
Right.
get more speed and got up to points.
We'll take Kimi Räikkönen, for example. Like, he's so combative, but his team always tells him what to do, and then he turns around and goes, why? Like, because he doesn't agree,
Yeah.
but they didn't give him any option to answer a question. They told him what to do, and he didn't agree, and so now he's asking questions.
So I guess the main thing is they're not giving Lando the option to fight him on a decision. They're asking him for a decision they should be making.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I
So-
think that's, I mean, it seems to be working for them. I'm no professional by any means, but I think that would probably be better for him, at least.
Well, I'm a professional amateur, so
So I'm going to pull up some footage of lap 30. I was not in attendance for this portion of the race.
It was a
I heard
baller
the
move.
excitement,
It was very baller.
but this is the Perez and Hamilton battle.
As the wheels turn
It was
round,
so
and now
good.
wheel with Sergio Perez, and does he pass Sergio Perez under braking? He gives the Red Bull a wide berth just in case. He knows that he can make this
No!
few corners. He pushes
How did they
Sergio
make-
Perez
they didn't make any
almost into the
contact.
pit
No.
lane entry.
Pushed him
Perez
off the
is
track.
not going to give this one up without a fight, and they're almost level pegging as they start the next lap. Hamilton's got better acceleration, and down towards turn one we go. Has Hamilton got up in the fourth
He's got the
place?
inside line.
No, he's not. Sergio
Yeah,
Perez
it
on
was
the inside
nasty.
regains the place that he might have lost by millimeters a few hundred meters before.
I think something that just totally plays into their experience and their seniority in Formula One. Because I think if that was like somebody like Ocon or like Stroll, they would have got hit.
Is there a relativeness to maturity and skill?
oh, absolutely,
Oh, for sure. I think.
absolutely.
The reason I ask is because if that was not Perez and it was Verstappen,
Oh,
would they have crashed
probably
or made contact?
Especially because they're both assholes.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, I know that they're both professionals, they're both drivers, but I think the animosity there, maybe just the
Mhm.
adrenaline is a little higher, so you don't have the level headedness. Verstappen's known to be a little bit of a hothead sometimes.
Right.
Nothing to take away from his driving skills, but I can see why they would touch more than the average driver.
Right.
Perez, I think, knows what his job is. He understood, I think you said it. He understood the assignment. You got to keep Hamilton behind you. The fact that Hamilton pushed him off the track and he came back in and kept his cool, I think
Yeah.
that speaks volumes of the type of driver he
Well, I
is.
think of yourself when you were 21, 22 years old, do you think that you were as level-headed as you are now? Then go ahead and put yourself in a car.
Ouch.
I'm just saying, do you think that you were as calm at 21 or 22 than
no.
you are now? I think it's physically impossible.
Now I just think it's the juice worth the squeeze. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know
right.
what I'm capable of. And
You have to monitor the risk, right?
Yeah.
Right, but when you're younger, you're like, oh, 10th place, that's the points. I'm going to do anything in my power to get there. You know what I mean? So I think that has a lot to do with it. So, like, some two older drivers who have been in Formula One for that long, like, they're not going to make the same mistakes. That's why Verstappen still makes the mistakes that he does, Leclerc, because they're young. Lando, last race, they're young. They make poor choices because they're still like, no, my balls are bigger. No, my balls are bigger.
I think I think you're right. I think they have a bigger reward when they get it right. But yeah, there's definitely a hesitation from some of the older drivers because they know.
Right. They know what it's going to cost them. And especially somebody like Lewis Hamilton. Like, Sergio Perez is not in the running to be the world champion. So spinning him out or spinning himself out against Sergio is not beneficial
it's not
for
going to
anybody.
benefit the team or him.
Right. So, I mean, that's why he backed out, because it's not worth it. Now, going back to the Verstappen, it's worth it in that case. Okay, sure, he spins him out, takes a 10-second penalty, but Verstappen's out of the race.
Yeah. Adding to that, though, Sergio Perez, going back to him knowing the assignments, he knows that he's just a support, right? So he needs to get the most amount of points that he can provide to the team, because he's not going to be a world champion this season.
Right.
But he needs to get more points for the team, which is what he did for this race.
I think the fact that he did it without having to spin or have touch or anything with the other driver, I think it's great.
Right.
I think that's driving at his best. I think any other driver, I think we could go back to the Schumacher days where he probably would have spun the guy out.
For no reason. Just to get out of my space.
Get out of my space and do it, right? So I mean,
Right.
racing's changed, but I think that's a great aspect of the driving. that
Right.
Sergio actually kept his cool, and so did Hamilton. I mean, he gave him space.
Right.
He went wide, he gave him the space. I think that's straight up great racing.
Well, yeah, and like I was saying, like, if he spins out Verstappen and Verstappen's out of the race, well, Lewis Hamilton still gets to finish the race, and he still gets points, and Verstappen doesn't. So you have to think of, like, what are the benefits of the situation that I'm in? Like I said, him spinning out or Perez has nothing to do, or no benefit to him whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, the perfect segue into the next part of this is Aston Martin Racing making the wrong decision for Sebastian Vettel.
Wow, he looked like a baby deer who was just born in the Formula One car. He was like, oh!
I would say, though, back to the Lando telling the team what to do, Vettel being an experienced driver, the radio call came in and said, do you think the track will be dry enough for slicks? And it did say yes.
Yeah, he did.
So I think the team, no, he didn't tell him to put slicks on me, but I think the team made a decision based on his comment
Right.
that the track would
Which
be ready.
was bad.
Which was a terrible decision.
Because
absolutely.
they have the data right there. All you have to do is say, because they can see track temperatures, they can see the track temperature. You're telling me that you saw the track temperature, you see the wetness outside, and you're like, yeah, that sounds good.
Especially when your other, was it Ocon who didn't change tires?
No.
Yeah.
You probably have that data. So you're probably seeing the speeds and what's going on with it. So they probably could have done better than what they did.
Now, granted, if it would have worked, it would have been spectacular.
It was a gamble. It was just a really bad gamble.
Yes, but in this case, it was a spectacular flop.
You bring up a good point. I don't think we've ever seen a race or watched a race in the past 4 or 5 years we've been watching Formula One where there's been a wet race and the intermediates went the entire race. Because Ocon did not stop once.
Right. And that was, I mean, I figured Hamilton and Leclerc both could have done that, not stopped, and probably kept. I think Leclerc would have ended up 4th.
Yeah.
I don't think he had. I think he had
the pace on the tires, but it's weird to see that, like, Hamilton did.
And I think on this time, I know Hamilton complained a little bit, but I think he might have had a better chance if they didn't switch the tires. I don't think he would have made podium. I think he would have gotten 4th. I think him and Leclerc would have been fighting for 4th place.
Which that's fine. It's
although looking at the end of the race where Lando and Gasly were getting close to him, makes me think that he would have been better if he didn't stop.
Oh, yeah, it was a garbage move from his garage.
I think Lewis would have picked up another position if he would have pitted when the team told him to pit.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it was 3, 4, 5 laps. Those 3, 4, 5 laps would have helped. If he would have pitted right when the team said come in the pits, I think he would have made up a position.
I don't agree. For only the reason is he's still going to come out behind Perez. And Perez is the cock blocker jocker. Like, he's not going to let him through.
That's true.
So,
no, that is a good point. Perez is a great defender. I think we learned that from previous races. And since he's gotten to Red Bull and he's got a car that can actually handle the pressure, I think he's done a great job defending. And we know he can massage his tires to last longer than usual.
Yeah.
Which I think the shocking part of the race, and I think you mentioned it, was I can't believe they pit Perez because I think he could have gone and stayed where he was, probably would have gotten second place,
Yeah.
or kept ahead of the pack.
Now Leclerc, he tried staying out.
He did. But that car's trash. So
The Red Bull car?
no, the Ferrari.
The Ferrari car.
Oh, damn.
They
Ferrari.
have, and I think we said it during the race, Ferrari's got the speed on the straight line. He had the speed. It's just when it came to the turns, he had no, first of all, his wheels were already sliding a little bit. So, but the turns didn't have it. Hamilton had the downforce to get out quicker on the turns. I think most cars did. Ferrari had the speed on the straight, but not on the turns.
But I guess if you're driving a car as slow as a boat, you're not going to do well anyway.
Hey, it can't be that slow because Sainz came back from 19 to 8th place.
8th place. Driver of the day.
At that point, you probably have to look at the driver.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure because it's a boat. It's an absolute boat.
Is it
It's
just
a
me?
garbage
Or,
cut.
is it just me, or are teams and drivers making more risks or taking more risks this season? It seems like they're taking more risks, just with the whole Lando Norris thing, Vettel.
Yeah, well, and I think that comes from all the regulation changes for next season. Like this car's gonna be obsolete. You know what I mean? So bang it up, trash it, do whatever you need to do because you can't use it anymore.
That's true. I mean, yeah. What do you have to lose at some point? And some of these teams are really good vehicles. I mean, the fact that Lando is doing so well on the McLaren, better than he did last year, and last year was a great year for McLaren. The fact that you have Russell qualifying higher, the fact that you have
Podiuming.
getting a podium,
Yeah.
that's insane. So I think the cars are probably pushing to the limit because this is the last chance they have before they go into the new regulations.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no expenses spared, like I said, because everything changes pretty much on the car next year, right? There's a wage cap, so like all these stuff that you have to take off the car in order to make it regulation legal, like they can destroy. Because what else are they going to use it for?
Right.
I also venture out to say that those new drivers, your Gaslys, your Landos, they have Russells, they have more experience. So they've gained a little more experience. So now they're maybe taking a little more of a risk. I've seen a lot more late braking for more. I mean, usually it was Ricardo who was the master of the late braking. Now you can see Lando's doing it. You see Gasly doing it.
Right.
Perez was doing. I mean, everyone's doing a little more of that. So I think we're taking a little more risk, and the experience is definitely paying off.
Right.
See, but I think a little side note. I think sometimes having young drivers definitely is beneficial, but then you have people like Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin, who I don't think were ready to get into Formula One whatsoever. I think that was a terrible decision on Haas's part.
Well, it's the car as well. You can't just blame the drivers.
No, I don't think that it's the driver. They're just too young. I just feel like they're way too young mentally.
Lando Norris was young at one point. He
I
was
know,
19 when he joined
but
Formula
Lando
One.
Norris, when he was driving, isn't going beep, 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 because he doesn't want to curse. He's no child.
Well, that might be a team direction too, though.
Really? You're telling me Gunther Steiner walks around calling people fucking wankers and he can't go on the radio and say anything? You got me
That's
fucked
right.
up.
That's right. That's right.
So I just think that those two, I mean, they bring a lot of money and they bring a lot of sponsorship, but I don't think that they were ready to come into Formula One. Because they were still in Formula 3 or something like that? Like
No, Formula 2.
Formula 2. Oh.
Yeah.
But regardless, I think that they were way too young to come into the sport. I don't think that they were ready. And I think Gunther Steiner was like, yeah, but we need the money, so you're ready.
And I think that's something we've talked about. And Formula One's never been shy about pandering and making decisions because of money. I think they know that Formula One is the elite sport, and the money is very important. And we watched it in the series. Of course, we got the abridged version because it's all for Netflix. Trying to survive. But one of the comments that was made was the company was looking for a German driver to be part of that team.
Yeah.
So they have to pander. Now you have to look at Mick Schumacher. How come his last name on the thing is not the SH, the SCH? It's the M because it's Mick Schumacher. It's the name.
Right.
So once you get the Schumacher name in F1, it probably gets you some of the veteran fans to come back.
Right.
It gives that name, that recognition. So yeah.
I don't know. I just think that when Lando came in or Russell came in or even Albon, like they didn't seem like little kids driving big cars. You know what I mean? They seemed like they had a more greater appreciation and a more level head. But Nikita Mazepin, I can't stand. that's for other reasons.
Are you saying this though because Mick Schumacher was like bleep 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 bleep?
Well, that and then like
You can't blame the fact that they're not doing well this
out.
season.
No, and then they get out and they go into the where they do the interviews, and then Nikita Mazepin's like pissed off because he can get 19th place. Mick Schumacher had 19th place. Like they're squabbling over absolutely nothing. Like that's childlike.
Yeah, but that's the mentality of a racer, I'd imagine. They're accepting what they have, which is 19th and 20th position.
But he didn't earn it. He was like, it's my turn. It was supposed to be my turn to be 19th. So he didn't earn it. He was just mad because the team didn't give it to him. That's childlike. That's like, no, that's my ball, and he was only supposed to use it for an hour, and I was supposed to have it for the rest of the time. Like, that's childlike.
There is some childish squabbling going around. I think that's got to do with maturity.
Well, moving on to the next portion, lap 52, 58, kind of towards the tail end of the race, we had the Perez passing Leclerc. When I go more into that, Gustavo, being of Mexican descent, I want to get your take on Sergio Perez.
Here's the thing. When I first started watching F1, you guys know this, I despised Perez. And it was the Pepto-Bismol car that he was driving, that Racing Point or Force India.
In your defense, they painted him out to be such a bad person on Drive to Survive against Ocon, and now I can't stand Ocon either.
This is true. It's perception, and perception was like, I don't like this guy.
Yeah.
I think last season when they decided to get rid of Perez, even though Stroll was definitely not the best driver,
right?
Kind of highlighted the fact that Perez has a lot of skill, a lot of resilience. Mm-hmm. So coming into this season, the fact that he already podiumed twice, and he's doing the job for Red Bull, and I think we talked about this before. He understood the assignment. He's going out there and doing it. He knows he's not going to be there to get a championship right now. He's there to assist and make sure the team gets the constructors and help Max Verstappen.
Right.
I think he's doing the right thing. I think this battle with Perez and Leclerc was great. I think the fact that move that Perez pulled once Gasly and Alonso touched on the first lap got him the third place because he continued to fight to get that. Yeah, I think Leclerc's a great driver, but you're right. He did not have the speed. Not even after he pitted, he could not get it. And Perez is a great driver, and I like that he went right for it. He's not shy, and again, the late braking always got him to get around the corner.
One thing I do want to add, though, and we looked it up after the race, was this is the first double podium for Red Bull since November 2020, so about a year ago.
Yeah.
But it's definitely exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. I mean, but also fuck Red Bull.
Well, as a personal feeling about Red Bull, I can see what you're saying there.
I have a vendetta.
There is a big danger now that they've both podium. Momentum is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Confidence is a huge thing, and the fact that both podium. I mean, though Mercedes won the race, this is a huge win for Red Bull.
Yeah, it's only 136 points difference for the Constructors' Championship.
Okay, well, there's still 136 points losing. You're first loser when you're second. First loser.
I don't have any other points other than the fact that they mention it in the show that the Ferrari drivers are only separated by half a point.
What do you mean?
In terms of their position in the Drivers' Championship,
how funny.
They're separated by half a point.
Who's ahead?
Leclerc.
Leclerc's ahead?
Yeah.
Wasn't there just a little bit of recently some comment about Leclerc not happy with the team? You think he felt they were favoring Sainz a little more? I think Sainz is a better driver. He's been doing really well, but I think Sainz is a better driver. He picked up, he moved to Ferrari, and he picked up that car real fast.
Yeah.
Whereas you still see, like, Ricciardo still has issues in the McLaren.
Right. Ricciardo's still trying to figure out, but Sainz picked it up, and he's doing well. And I think probably maybe Leclerc resents the fact that he's doing so well right off the bat, and that now it seems that Leclerc is the support driver, given Sainz skill.
Which is funny, because isn't that exactly what happened last season with him and Sebastian
Vettel?
Vettel? Oh, now you're upset? Shut up.
Yeah, I think the teams always say the cars are balanced in the same car, but we all know that's not true.
Right.
Some do get a little more, and they said it in the broadcast, right? Valtteri Bottas picked up the fastest lap because he wasn't going to take points away from Hamilton. So the team is definitely focusing on Hamilton getting the championship, and if Hamilton had the opportunity to get the fastest lap, Valtteri will never have the chance to go get that extra point.
Right.
Yeah.
So
they just wanted to keep it away from Max.
Well, and speaking of Max, this is a perfect opportunity to talk about the rivalry between Max and Hamilton. I think Max is going to win it this year.
I think you need to shut your whore mouth.
Well, I think this is a perfect opportunity for you to give us the Irish take on the Hamilton and Verstappen. We obviously know you hate Verstappen.
I do. I hate him.
He's never done anything to you, and you love Hamilton. And now here we are, the championship being we're 6 points apart.
6 points.
Less than half of the race is left.
Here's the problem. Verstappen is an asshole. I can't stand him. He's got a bad attitude. He tried to fight Ocon. Like, what kind of serious driver are you supposed to be going around fighting bitches?
Mick Schumacher did the same thing. I'm sorry, Michael Schumacher did the same thing.
Okay. All I'm saying is he's got a bad attitude. He's a terrible driver. He whines and complains about him getting spinned out, but all the other races and all the other seasons, he's done the exact same thing to other people. Google it on YouTube. He's done it just as much times, if not more, but then cries like a little girl when it happens to him. That's a problem. The reason I like Hamilton so much is just because he's the underdog. I feel like the FIA is harder on him, probably meaner to him, and he just tries to go out there and race, and I think everything that he does is under a microscope, so that's why I like him better. Verstappen is a big fat baby, and I apologize to all the Verstappen fans out there, but I mean what I say. When he's a little girl, I don't like it.
So isn't there like a little bit of and I don't want to call it tradition, but isn't there kind of a thing where if you're on top, everybody's gunning for you? Hamilton obviously has done very well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that anybody will ever top his record of how many races he's won. So isn't there a little bit of everyone's got a little bit of chip on their shoulder because that's the guy you want to beat. That's the guy you got to go after. And I feel like Max is probably the only driver that has a chance to do that.
And that's fine. Great. Congratulations. But you don't have to be a super big dick about it.
So it's Verstappen's attitude.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's a terrible sport. I think when things don't go his way, he cries and complains. His team CEO does the exact same thing. That's where he gets it from. A bunch of crybabies together. They probably sit in a circle and cry together when things don't work out their way. And that's what I don't appreciate. Like, so after all this stuff, now granted, Hamilton didn't take his win, that one when he got, when Verstappen went into the wall. He didn't take his win gracefully. I'll say that. But the amount of hate that Hamilton got, racist hate, all that kind of stuff, is way more than anything Verstappen has ever gotten for doing identical things in all the previous seasons.
Okay, I see that. I would say I have only one negative thing towards Verstappen, and that's 2 races ago when they crashed. There was a crash that he did walk away from that crash without checking on Hamilton.
He also accelerated while the car was on top of Hamilton, and he had no idea to know that Hamilton's head wasn't directly underneath his tire. And so he accelerated with the car.
Wait, Hamilton was on top of Verstappen.
No, Verstappen
was on top of Hamilton. And he was accelerating on top of the car without knowing where his wheel was. So
and listen, on that one, I see what you're saying. Him not knowing where everybody was.
Yeah.
I can see him trying to speed away or try to get off so he can keep racing. I can see Hamilton Hamilton did also hit reverse a couple of times to try to get out.
Right.
My only issue was that when Verstappen got out of his car, kind of walked away, looked back, and kind of didn't bother to. His car was on top of the other car.
And that one ended up being his fault based off the FIA. He got the penalty.
He did get the penalty.
Where's the phone call? It was such a big deal that Hamilton celebrated the way that he did. You honestly could have killed him had your wheel been on top of his head and you accelerated, but that's fine. That's not a big deal. Nobody cares about that.
Controversy?
Yeah, it is controversial.
Controversy. And that's why we love Formula One.
I'm very opinionated.
And that's why we wanted to
give
ask
you your own segment. That's the Irish take.
The Irish take. Well done. Well done. Well done.
But also every race, I pray to the F1 gods that somehow Verstappen gets spun out or crashes.
No harm coming to him.
No harm, but I don't want him to finish the race.
Got it.
Would it be better if someone was in second place? Is there an issue with the fact that there's a risk to Hamilton winning the championship this season?
What do you mean? I think you need to rephrase your question.
Would you be okay if Perez won?
If it was anybody else, except for
That's my
Verstappen,
question.
I
Okay.
would be
Yep.
totally fine.
Okay.
Ricardo, 100%. He could win all the races. He's my
Okay.
favorite driver, hands down. I like his attitude the best.
Would it be better that Stroll wins over Verstappen?
Ooh. I don't know.
I think it's going to be for another episode because we do definitely have to address the Stroll hate from a lot of people
Yeah.
that are fans of Formula One.
Oh, yeah. He's something else entirely.
All right. Well, I would wrap it up for our first episode of F1 Talk.
Thank you.
2021 Turkish Grand Prix.
We'll see you guys
And that's the that on that.
on the
All right.
next episode.